With Israel at full military preparedness and with the USS Lincoln aircraft carrier arriving in the region, Iran appears to be backing off from its threats to retaliate against Israel for allegedly killing Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran 3 weeks ago. Retreating from its promise of retaliation against Israel, the Revolutionary Guard in Iran now appear to have placed the threatened attack on a back burner.
زمان در اختیار ماست و ممکن است دوره انتظار از پاسخ طولانی تر بشه. فعلا صهیونیست‌ها در ترس ناشی از دوره انتظار و ابعاد حمله احتمال ایران و جبهه مقاومت در بی‌تعادلی باید به سر ببرن.
The Iranian announcement came at the same time as the arrival of the USS Lincoln aircraft carrier to the region and amid Washington's repeated warnings to the Iranians. The Iranian retreat also comes amid an Israeli buildup and preparedness in anticipation of the Iranian attack. It also comes amid prospects of a potential Israeli counterattack that could target the Iranians' nuclear facilities. Prime Minister Netanyahu visited the Air Force commanders at the Ramat David Air Force Base in the north and said that Israel is fully prepared against all threats, both near and far. We are prepared for any scenario, both defensively and offensively, he said.
אני כאן בבסיס חיל האוויר כדי לעמוד מקרוב על ההכנות שלנו מול איומים קרובים ורחוקים כאחד. אנחנו ערוכים לכל תרחיש, הן בהגנה והן בהתקפה. חיל האוויר הוא אגרוף הברזל שלנו שיודע לפגוע בבטן הרכה של אויבינו, ואם נצטרך, נוכיח את זה שוב וביתר שאת.
In response to the Hezbollah attack yesterday on the Israeli town of Katzrin in the Golan Heights, the IDF today launched a blitz hitting 10 Hezbollah sites simultaneously in 10 different areas of South Lebanon. The 8,000 residents of Katzrin have not been evacuated during the war, and they absorbed damages from 50 rockets directly targeting the town. The strikes carried out by fighter jets all over South Lebanon targeted weapon depots, buildings used by Hezbollah, and rocket launchers. The Israeli Air Force blitz targeted multiple sites at the same time. The widespread strikes come as a response to a Hezbollah barrage of 50 rockets directly targeting the civilian town of Katzrin, causing damage and wounding an Israeli man. Unlike the 60,000 northerners living close to the border who were evacuated in early October, Katzrin residents have mostly remained at home and shelter when necessary. Hezbollah launched more than 50 rockets toward the Golan yesterday, causing major damages in Katzrin, a large town in central Golan. Hezbollah is slowly escalating the war on Israel, and this is another part of that escalation, which began a week ago with attacks on Shamir in northern Israel's Hula Valley.
הייתה אזעקה בבוקר, תושבים רצו לממ"דים, הייתה נפילה, וזו התוצאה של פה הרס רציני בתוך הבית. יש פה אישה מבוגרת מעל גיל 80, שהספיקה לרדת למקלט, ברוך השם, ולא קרה לה כלום, אבל הבית שלה נפגע. כן, פה נפגע הבית. וזהו, ברוך השם, יש פה נזק רב ברכוש ונפגעי חרדה. הבית של ההורים שלי גר פה, נמצא פה ליד, וגם שם יש נזק. ברוך השם, שלא נפגע בחיי אדם.
Now clearly in the line of fire, some residents are considering moving elsewhere until the shelling stops.
פה כאלה תושבים שרוצים לעזוב, יש את הפטריוטים שרוצים להישאר, אבל במצב הזה זה לא יכול להימשך. אנחנו, כל טריקה של דלת פה, אנחנו חושבים שזה בום. והנה, הפעם זה באמת לא הטריקה של דלת, זה היה באמת בום רציני. שעלה לנו בהרבה... מקווה שלא יהיו עוד אסונות.
The patience of the northern residents has run out. Its leaders are demanding military action from the government that will permanently end the Hezbollah threat on their communities that has been only getting worse in the 3 weeks since the Israeli assassination of Hezbollah commander Fuad Shukr in Beirut. And we're joined now by Katzrin resident Eliyahu Berkowitz. Eliyahu, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Steve.
Describe Describe for us, if you can, what it was like during the Hezbollah attack yesterday in Katsrin.
Well, usually the rocket attacks, we can hear rockets fairly frequently, but it's like a low boom. It almost sounds like big trucks driving through the city just banging. But when they start coming to the city, it sounds very different. And that's what we've been getting in the last few attacks. And it's very different. It's a different sound, and you know that it's landing inside the city, and that's scary. At the time, my wife was not at home. She and my young son were at the store, and it's very scary. You don't know where they are. Also, I was told that they're starting to actually target Katsrin. And I think the reason is because Katsrin is probably the most populated town in the north. As you noted, all of the other major cities in the north were evacuated, and they're out to kill Jews. So the place they're going to do the best is unfortunately in Katsrin. I've been telling my wife all along, we live in the safest place for Jews in the world, certainly in Israel. But now we're talking about what we should do if it gets any worse. It's
a lovely town. I've been to many times, and so many of us love to tour in the Golan. And of course, the Golan is off limits to all of Israel during this holiday time. Tell me, Eliyahu, how much time do you actually have to shelter, and are there actually enough shelters?
Oh, none. There's not always a siren. There's not always a siren when the rockets come, and even when there is a siren, it comes as the rockets fall. You know, the rockets start exploding, and then we hear the siren, and the siren, the app on my phone goes off. It's all simultaneous. There's no time to run for anything.
What about?
And until now, we've been sheltering in our house, but I have to change that because now they're hitting houses. We've got to go for the shelter.
Are there enough shelters in public areas? What comes to mind, of course, is the sports facilities, which, like what happened in Majd al-Shams, the tragedy there.
Well, people are not doing so many things publicly anymore. There are enough shelters. The Golan was always like on the border with Syria. There are shelters 30 yards to the left of my house, 30 yards to the right of my house. And thank God there have been a lot of, I'm going to cry. This is very, very emotional stuff for me. There have been a lot of generous people who have helped us put the portable shelters, which are hugely important. Like a month ago, I was shopping at the supermarket and the rockets started falling, and the shelter that was out in the parking lot filled up with mothers with little children who were out in cars. Those are incredibly necessary.
Eliyahu,
just put up. Sorry?
We're just about out of time, but I did want to ask, have you been hearing about people that are leaving because of their kids? I know that the school year is going to be beginning in early September. Hopefully everyone is at least able to stay in Katsrin.
I haven't heard of people leaving. I know several of my friends have taken very conveniently timed vacations overseas. My family, we've all updated our passports. I don't know people who are definitely leaving, but I know a lot of people who are thinking about it.
Right.
And
Eliyahu, we're going to have to end it there just for time reasons, but I sure hope we can get back to you soon and you can report on happier times in Katsrin.
God willing. God willing.
Thank you. While much of the military attention is turning north, the war in Gaza is ongoing. 50 Hamas terrorists were reported killed in Rafah alone. Day 321 of the war in Gaza, Hamas was able to fire rockets into the southern border community of Nir Am and surroundings. Inside Gaza, the IDF is operating in the south, center, and north of the enclave as Hamas gunmen reappear in areas controlled earlier in the war. The focus is also on any remaining Hamas capabilities to fire rockets into Israel.
הדבר הכי חשוב בעיניי ובתור תפיסה זה לזכור מה מטרות המלחמה, לעמוד בכל המטרות של המלחמה, גם לגבי החמאס, גם לגבי החטופים, ולהסתכל עכשיו צפונה, אנחנו מבינים למה.
Fighter jets targeted the Salah al-Din school in Gaza City that had been turned into a command center by Hamas operatives who returned to the area. From the compound, Hamas terrorists planned and carried out terror acts against IDF forces. Prior to the attack, measures were carried out to reduce the chance of harming civilians, including the use of precision weaponry and additional intelligence information. Hamas systematically violates international law, brutally exploiting civilian institutions while using the population as human shields for terrorist acts.
The mediated hostage for ceasefire talks in Doha are reportedly reaching a dead end. The meetings are taking place under the leadership of U.S. Secretary of State Blinken, who is still trying to pull the full U.S. diplomatic weight behind an agreement that would halt the Gaza war and bring back Israeli hostages in stages. Qatari and Egyptian mediators are saying that the U.S. bridging document that was agreeable to Prime Minister Netanyahu had bent too far toward Israel and is rejected by Hamas. The sticking points include Netanyahu's insistence that IDF troops remain on the Philadelphia axis and the Netzarim corridor, while Hamas demands a full IDF withdrawal from Gaza and a permanent end to the war. President Biden and Vice President Harris called Netanyahu last night to press for utmost Israeli flexibility in deliberations now moved to Cairo. The parents of Hirsch Goldberg Polin, a 23-year-old American who was kidnapped from a music festival in Israel, delivered an emotional plea at the DNC, calling for unity and urgent action to bring their son and the 109 other hostages home. More from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
Hirsch Goldberg Polin, a 23-year-old American, was abducted from the Nova Music Festival in Israel on October 7th. His parents, John and Rachel Goldberg Polin, gave an emotional speech at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, expressing their deep sorrow and urging for the safe return of their only son, along with the 109 other hostages. They urged everyone to come together, push for action, and ensure the hostages return home.
This is a political convention, but needing our only son and all of the cherished hostages home is not a political issue. It is a humanitarian issue. The families of the American 8 hostages meet every few weeks in Washington. We're heartened that both Democratic and Republican leaders demonstrate their bipartisan support for our hostages being released. There is a surplus of agony on all sides of the tragic conflict in the Middle East. In a competition of pain, there are no winners. In our Jewish tradition, we say, Kol Adam Olam Umlo'o. Every person is an entire universe. We must save all these universes. In an inflamed Middle East, we know the one thing that can most immediately release pressure and bring calm to the entire region. A deal that brings this diverse group of 109 hostages home and ends the suffering of the innocent civilians in Gaza.
Hirsch, if you can hear us, we love you. Stay strong. Survive.
Bring them home now. Approximately 200 North Americans arrived in Israel on Aliyah, setting a new record for single-day immigration. This despite ongoing conflict and threats, with a total of 600 newcomers expected this week. ILTV editor Mayan Hoffman welcomed the first plane of immigrants at Ben Gurion International Airport.
Some 200 North Americans made Aliyah today, arriving in Israel on 5 different flights, a new record that kicks off an extraordinary week of immigration. Organized by Nefesh B'Nefesh in collaboration with Israel's Ministry of Aliyah and Integration, the Jewish Agency, Karen Kayemet L'Israel, and JNF USA, this marks the largest single-day arrival of new immigrants this year. Throughout the week, from August 20 to 28, a total of 600 newcomers will settle in Israel on 14 group Aliyah flights provided by Nefesh B'Nefesh. This latest wave is part of a broader trend, with 2,000 Olim, from infants as young as 2 months to elders aged 97, making the move to Israel this summer.
This is the most important time to show solidarity with the Jewish people, in the middle of a war. We have to come, be part of the Jewish people, do our part.
It's great to be in the country of Israel where everybody's, following and doing things that, the Jewish nation and the Jewish people have, studied and learned to do for generations. And now we have the opportunity to, live the dream and do it in Israel like we're supposed to. So why live anywhere else?
The Jewish Agency told ILTV that nearly 20,000 new immigrants arrived in Israel between January and July 2024. Between October 7th and the beginning of the summer influx of immigrants, more than 2,500 Olim from the U.S. and Canada alone have made Aliyah, with many settling in central cities like Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and Modi'in. Nefesh B'Nefesh said that half of these new arrivals cite Zionism as their main reason for moving to Israel.
This is where the Jewish people are supposed to be.
This year stands out as new immigrants arrive amid more than 10 months of ongoing conflict, with 109 Israelis still held captive and the looming threat of escalation from Iran. This challenge, Aliyah and Integration Minister Ofer Sofer emphasized, is precisely why Israel needs more Olim.
I think that it's strengthen us, it's give us a power, it's give us a resilience. It's amazing. I think what our enemies think about us when they say Jews coming to Israel and continue coming here to Israel. This is our response. This is our answer for their attacks.
Nefesh B'Nefesh has been helping North Americans make Aliyah for over 20 years. Yet each time a plane touches down, the organization's founders say it is just as exciting as ever.
It's very hard not to be inspired, especially during the times of what we're living through now. And to see that nothing deters a Jew from coming home.
They're fulfilling a dream, and we're helping them. What's wrong with that? And each individual is in each individual, from the little baby to the elderly person. They're all fulfilling their dream of coming home to Israel. So we can't be excited. We have to be excited. We just love it. Why not? They're the good news. That's the good news for today. So this morning when people wake up in Israel, this is the good news that you're going to see. No one's running away from anything. They're running to something. And they're here to help. They feel that they're coming to Israel. They're going to fulfill their dream. I keep saying that, but it's true. But they're going to feel good about what they're doing. But they're also going to be helping the country. They're doctors, lawyers, engineers, students, soldiers. They're the integral part of the country. All these Olim are. So there's no encouragement needed. This is your country. Come home.
And I'm pleased to be joined now by new immigrant from the United States, Louis Kemp. Louis, I'm also an immigrant. I've been here for 50 years, but let me say, as a landsman from the old country, welcome to the Holy Land.
Thank you, Steve.
What took you so long?
Really? That's a good question, but I made Aliyah 4 months ago. I got my Israeli citizenship last week, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, there are some pictures running on the screen now, and so that our viewers are aware of who you are. You wrote a book called Dylan and Me, 50 Years of Adventures.
Yes.
You could say one of the oldest friends of Bob Dylan.
Yes, well, when we became friends, Bobby and I, it was Bobby Zimmerman.
Yeah.
And we met at a Jewish camp in northern Wisconsin called Herzl Camp. When I was 11, Bobby was 12. And the book entails the 50 years of adventures that we had together, starting as young boys up into, he became Bob Dylan and I had my career in the seafood business. And it's been a nice journey.
Well, two things. Number one, did you inspire any of the lyrics? And number two, did you let Bob Dylan know that you've come on Aliyah, and have you heard anything back?
Well, I don't, Bob gets his inspiration from everything and everybody around him. You know, he's amazing. We'd go out together, and he'd have a little notebook, and he'd always be not jotting things down. So, and he processes it in his creative way. Yes, Bob knows I'm here. I don't think he's that surprised because he always knew how much I loved Israel, and I used to come here all the time.
I've seen Dylan here. I saw him perform here. He's been here a number of times. He was even a volunteer in a kibbutz back in the day. But let me ask you more about you. First of all, which city have you decided to live in?
So I'm living in Jerusalem, in the Mamilla area. I'm a 5-minute walk from the Jaffa Gate, right in the central part of Jerusalem. And I'm thrilled to be here.
You have family here as well.
I have a daughter and 4 grandchildren in Renana.
How do you intend to spend your time?
Well, I'm going to study Torah, but also I came here to try and make a difference. And one project that I'm working on right now that I brought with me in my head, and now we're putting it to fruition, is I partnered with 2 brothers, the Fielding brothers out of Miami Beach, Florida, who own a 100-acre camp right outside Orlando. And we're going to bring people who were affected from the war, you know, widows, orphans, wounded IDF, dispersed people to Orlando, to this camp.
In order to recover from the war?
Yes, to recover, to get some relaxation, and also to have
What a great idea.
Yeah, professional help there for them as well. So that's proceeding. That's one of my first projects here.
Well, Louis, I just want to thank you so much. And did you ever try to sing together with Bob back in the camp? The answer, my friend, join me, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
I got to tell you, we're both from Duluth, Minnesota, Bobby and I. And, you know, he hitchhiked to New York with $5 in his sock.
Wow.
And made it happen. And I remember driving in my car in Duluth, listening to one of the local music stations, and all of a sudden they said, we have this song from Bob Dylan, who used to live in Duluth.
We're just about out of time, but let me say that what I think you should be doing here in Israel is trying to turn this book into a movie. We all want to experience what you've just been describing.
Thank you.
Louis, thank you so much for joining us, and have the best time on Aliyah. Good luck to you.
I just want to add one thing. When I told my friends back in America I was moving to Israel, you know, some of them were very shocked, and they say to me, do you have family in Israel? I said, yes, I have 7 million family members.
All of us together.
And that's how I feel.
I'm Yisrael Chai. Thank you so much, Louis.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, let's take a look at the weather forecast. I was wishing that just once this August there would be a change in the weather, and so there is. There's going to be partly cloudy skies in Haifa and Eilat. The average low temperatures today of 77 Fahrenheit or 25 Celsius, and highs tomorrow of 93 Fahrenheit or 34 Celsius. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all of your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Steve Liebowitz. Be well. Thanks for being with us. Let's bring them home now.